Kevin Sullivan, how the hell are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's been a few weeks since I saw you, I
Yeah,
think.
man. Well,
Life
it's
flew
I
so
think it's been
fast, I
like
can't
a
remember.
week and a half. I was on your show,
Oh
21
shit,
Guns.
that's right.
Yep, yep, yep.
Shows you how much I don't remember anything.
I should
What's funny is we had last night we had Jason Piccolo on, who's also a PhD, and it's like, man, we are the smart show. Come listen to us for smart people.
Yeah, man. I'm a PhD dropout. It was that was kind of a thing, man. Like I saw a lot of the stuff going on in academia that like all the woke stuff. I
Yeah.
saw that
Oh,
stuff like coming 15 years ago. I know it
really?
was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I mean, I went to my undergrad was at University of New Hampshire, which was, I feel like, and it could just been a symptom of the 90s. I can't remember when I went there, mid to late 90s. And yeah, all the PC stuff was coming through University of New Hampshire. They actually were one of the, uh, a, a flyer went out from them a couple years ago and it showed like all this like ridiculous PC stuff, like deep in the weeds of just all the crap that makes us upset these days. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's my alma mater. That's my alma
Yeah,
mater.
man. I saw yesterday, and I don't want to get too far into this stuff, but
Yeah,
the new iPhone update has a pregnant man emoji.
sure. Why not? Listen,
Yeah,
in the real world, I work in medicine. Okay. And you know how many pregnant men I've dealt with in my life? I can't even say it with a straight face.
tons, right?
Yeah, tons. It's just like, okay, now who's the mom here? Because I don't know. I mean, I assume
Yeah.
the one with the big belly and the boobs, but I have no idea.
I told my girlfriend to be careful because I'm PMSing. So,
Sure,
you know,
absolutely. Why
all this
not?
stuff.
Live your truth. Live your truth, brother.
Exactly. Well, Kevin, man, welcome to the show. I want to start by just getting a little bit into your background. Talking about your service and what you're doing now, and how you got to get it into doing podcasting and things like that.
Sure.
Um, so let's start with like a brief synopsis of who you are, where you're coming from, where you serve, that kind of thing.
All right. My name is Kevin Sullivan. I come from New Hampshire. I was in the U.S. Air Force from 2001 to 2007.
Mhm.
It was right before 9/11. I was bored. I had a beer gut. I was just like, what am I doing with life? I was sitting in a office space downtown Boston, and I'm like, I'm gonna go do the military. It was like, I'm just gonna do something different. So I went down to the recruiting office, and I was like, I walked in, and I have a huge family history. I think I have a picture around here somewhere of like Civil War era naval members from my family. So I was like, I
Shit.
have to be in the Navy. So I went up to the Navy and I was like, I want to be in the Navy, but I don't like boats. I just want to blow shit up. And he just laughed at me. He's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So this Air Force guy was sitting behind him. They kind of had, Air Force, Navy, and then Marines and what's the other one? Army. Yeah. Uh, and so the Air Force guy is like, you want to blow shit up? Come over here. And I was like, okay, why not? So he talked me into doing a TAC P, Tactical Air Control Party, the officer version. And I believe now they've changed the names for the officers, like Air Liaison Officer, whatever. It's same sort of job. So I was excited about that. Joined, I already got my degree. So I went to officer candidate school, and halfway through officer candidate school, the NCO who's in charge of what we call billets, your assignment, he calls my name, and I'm like, man, it's never good to have like a E6, E7 when you're I don't know what we called ourselves, cadets or something like that. Call your name out. So I go up and he said, hey, you scored well on this test. Do you want to fly airplanes? And I was like, huh, do I have time to think about this? I have a couple days. And then he kind of rolled his eyes, looked at the next name on the list, and called that person over. And it was basically, you have as much time till that guy gets here to figure out if this is what you want to do. And I was like, well, what, do I get to blow shit up still? And he's like, yeah, you get to be the one that actually blows shit up. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Literally, that's how I went from being a ground personnel to aviation. Was 15 seconds. Someone asked me if I wanted to do it. And so, yeah,
Shit.
so then my career changed drastically from that point on, off to
Wow.
flight school and all that stuff. Yeah, that's how I look at it. I mean, life is really like that. You're given these opportunities, and if you sit around and dwell on them, now you should. Now that I'm an old man, you should dwell a little bit, right?
A
You
little bit.
should plan it out a little bit. But in those days, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids. I mean, it was great. So yeah, so I became two names, navigator, but that kind of went to the wayside, and combat systems officer, electronic warfare officer, whatever it is. I was the guy in the C-130 making sure we weren't shot down and making sure we didn't hit any mountains or anything like that. So
That's
yeah,
crazy. Yeah,
lots
you
of
told
fun.
me a story, and I can't get the story out of my head. You
Okay.
you stopped at an air base. It was either in Iraq or Afghanistan,
Yes.
and you had to take a shit, and so
Mhm.
you went over to the porta potty, and they
Yeah.
played a joke on you. They didn't tell you it had been bombed out or something like that. And you,
Yeah, it was I want to say it was up in Mosul or Kirkuk, somewhere like that. That was that's one of the reasons why I really liked my job in the C-130, because we weren't in the airplanes that were 30, 40,000 feet above the action. We were down in it. We were like fixed wing helicopters. Yeah, that would be a good way to explain it. Every airfield, just hopping to each airfield at low level. And we went up to this little airfield somewhere up north, and they were under sniper fire or whatever. So normally I come out with my flashlight and I'm like, if I have to take a dump, but it was like just chem lights everywhere. And I was like, I got to use the bathroom. And they're like, there's one about, 200 meters that way. And so I went over and I'm in full kit, with my armor and all that stuff on, and weapon. And I get over there. I find it eventually. I think I had my flight helmet and my flight NVGs, which aren't like ground troops, because they're really blurry, because we tune them out to like, I don't know, a mile, right? Because that's where we're looking. We're not looking anywhere close.
right,
So I make out the shape of a porta potty, and I get over there and I take my helmet off. I take, because we have one zipper, right? It's a one piece
right.
suit, so you got to take everything off. And I'm throwing it on the ground. I really have to go. I open up the door and I sit back and I just fall into a hole full of that blue water
Yeah.
and shit. And
Ugh.
yeah, it was one of the worst experiences. It's really where the root of my PTSD comes from to this day, because it was pretty
Fuck. I'm sorry
horrendous.
to bring it up.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. Oof. And apparently, or one of the guys was laughing when I came back, one of the army dudes, because he said, yeah, that was hit by a mortar a few days ago. And I think what he said was, you were supposed to go to the one on the left, but how do you know? In that situation, you don't stop to look at mortar damage. It's just time to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. I couldn't imagine if that was me. And then how long did you have to fly after that?
Full mission. I mean, I don't even know, most of our missions, we had like a crew time or something, because they figured, let's say it was 18 hours. I don't remember what it was, but if you go beyond 18 hours, people tend to crash. So, after looking at a history of how many people were flying and all this, they came up with a crew hour time. So who knows? That's the funny thing about, it feels like my service was just yesterday, but let's say that was 2004, 2005. Man, that was 17 years ago. When
Yeah.
I
That's
was a
crazy,
kid,
right?
yeah,
That's
when I was a
crazy.
kid, Vietnam was 17 years ago or 20 years. I mean, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, time moves like that.
Oh, that's fucking nuts, man.
Yeah, and then you
So,
don't remember everything. And then everything comes into like one memory. And when you're
mhm,
talking with your friends, you're like, oh, remember when we did this? And they're like, actually, that was Afghanistan, not Iraq. Or that
yeah,
was this guy, not that guy. And that was here. And it's like, it's just one big ball of memories. And it's hard to kind of pick them out.
that's okay, man. What,
Yeah.
so, how long did you serve, and did you stay in for a while, or did you get out pretty quickly after everything?
After the poop incident, yes, it was medical board. I I was actually because I was hard charging in my younger years. I still wanted to blow stuff up, and the C-130 I got didn't blow stuff up, so I was a little disappointed with that. I did get to call an airstrike, and that was like my one glorious moment of explosions. But beyond that, uh, I was gunning for special operations. I wanted to go to the AC-130 gunship. So
Mhm.
3 or 4 deployments in, my commander was like, yeah, you got gunships. Congratulations, you're an air commando. I'm like, this is great. I'm gonna go to C1 or the AC-130 gunship world and all this, and just have to make it through this deployment. And then the rest is fuzzy. And it's funny, human memory. So when you think back on things and you try to remember how clear they are, and you're like, oh, I remember this clearly, I remember that. That's your brain filling in gaps. Very rarely is it accurate. Even if it happened today, like someone
Right.
cut you off today, you go, it was a white pickup truck, there was a guy with a blue baseball hat, but really it could have been a woman. And your brain just says, okay, this is most likely what happened, and this is what you remember. So I was on a mission. I think we were going to Baghdad, but I don't remember anything before, and I don't remember really anything for 2 weeks after that incident. What happened was, and what was told to me, which has kind of become my story because they told me so much that I've retold it, and now I kind of have a memory of it, if that makes any sense. But we were flying into Baghdad or whatever, and either the plane did a maneuver or we hit turbulence. And I never, as a navigator, I never strapped into my chair. Everyone else was strapped in, even the loadmasters in the back. But my job was, because I had so many different stations, like running the electronic countermeasures, and then looking at the radar, and then actually physically going up to the window and looking out and scanning for threats. So my loadmaster in the back, apparently I went off mic. No one could find me, or they were calling me and I wasn't answering, and they looked back and I wasn't there. And the loadmaster went to look for me and found me unconscious at the bottom of the flight steps, kind of like on my head with my body kind of crumpled on top. And so he picked me up and he put me in a seat. And this is actually a memory I have, because I remember being paralyzed half of my body and having no clue where I was. I mean, it was like being a kid woken up from a nap. Like, I just had no idea what was happening. They medevaced me. They took me to, gosh, I think it was Kuwait, and just put me through the ringers. And they're like, we have no idea what happened to you. Now, mind you, as a medical person now, I hear this story. I'm like, oh, you banged your head. But in those days, it was, we don't know what happened to you. It's got to be PTSD. And what's funny, you interviewed Kegan not long ago.
Right.
Same sort of thing around. Well, no, his was a few years after, but around the same situation. No, actually, I take that back. My situation was not even freaking remotely close to that animal.
Yeah, he got.
Yeah.
For those who haven't listened to that episode, our friend Kagan ejected at the sound barrier and nearly had his body torn apart.
Yeah. Mine was like stubbing my toe. He just basically liquefied a skeleton. But yeah, so anyways, they put me through everything. They're like, well, with your symptoms, we think it's PTSD. Thanks for playing medical board, and you're done. Right. And so it was, here's a whole shit ton of pills. And I believed it because I didn't know. So I'm like, okay, taking my pills, feeling like garbage, being depressed, even though they're putting me on antidepressants, pain medicines, sleep medicines, anti-anxiety medicines, nerve pain. I mean, the list goes on. And I left with a bad taste in my mouth, because I had this career that I was gunning for. And within one mission, I'm now just you just feel like you're tossed out, because the you're a cog, you're a piece in a giant machine. And like any machine, pieces break and you just throw them away and you start, and that's fine. Now that I'm older, I know that. But as a young guy, I mean, it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. So yeah, that's how I got out.
Were you married at the time or anything like that? Or
I got married 3 months before. So I got back, I think I had 6 months left in my career. So I got back from that deployment, did all the medical stuff. And then I knew it was over. I mean, even my commander was like, if you can't fly, I mean, you can't. I was undeployable basically. And it's like, he said he would fight for me to do what we call executive work. I was the wing exec. And you're just a bitch boy. You're sitting there writing people's performance reports. You're answering to the colonel. It's not a good job. And I was like, sir, if I'm doing that for the rest of my career, I would rather be medically discharged. And so he was cool with that, which I think anyone who is operation minded would be cool with that. So I kind of forgot what the question was that you had there, but
no, just kind of trying to figure out your story with the Air Force and everything like that. But
no, I ended up because I knew my time was limited in the Air Force, so I proposed and got married. 15 years now, so it worked. That's the one. That's the one career that actually stuck. So
that's awesome. So like, yeah, that whole feeling of like just abruptly being told you're getting out now. And we've got a lot of friends who've had that happen to them. We mentioned Kagan,
a lot of people.
Andrew Marr, who was Special Forces Green Beret, and then all of a sudden his brain just started failing on him and things like that. That feeling. How did you get through that? Like, what was your next thing? Did you find a mission immediately after that, or did you go through some self-pity and depression?
What's funny is, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I could have, right? I remember specifically the first day I was a civilian. I didn't get up. I'm like, well, I'm going to wake up. I don't have anything to do. I have nowhere to be. And I just laid in bed, and then I got up and I started drinking. And then literally, this was maybe 1 to 2 days. And then I'm like, no, not going to do this. I'm not going to come out damaged and then just follow the typical pity party and go down that route. I just decided, and instantly I wasn't going to do that. So I was like, all right, got down to the books and said, let's find out what I can do. And I had no idea. I mean, I was trained to fly. My my undergrad degree was garbage. I mean, I was a history major and I got a 2.6 or maybe even a 2.5 GPA. I mean, I had nothing. So a friend of mine who is a PA, I was just talking to her and she said, hey, you ever thought about being a PA? I was a firefighter before I went in to the Air Force. I was firefighter EMT. And she's like, EMT background, you could do that. And so I looked it up. I was like, what's a PA? And then from that point on, what's funny, I'm sure half the doctors I saw in the Air Force were PAs. I didn't know what a PA was, but I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Why not? And so I just kind of hunkered down, studied, took a lot of entry-level jobs. I was going to like at one point 5 different community colleges trying to get my sciences and everything taken care of, applying. And then I applied to one school and I was like, I hope it works. And somehow I got in. Somehow I passed 2.5, 3 years of schooling and then became a PA. So it all worked out actually. And it was a choice. I think it was. I mean, I know some people are in a lot worse places mentally, because I think we lose most of our guys in that crucial zone, right? And you could have 20 years, you could have whatever, how many I had, 6 or 7 years. You could have 6 weeks and break your leg or do something awful in basic. No matter what it is, you're going to find yourself a civilian again. And that's the danger zone right there. That's a rough area to be in. I was just lucky. I don't know. I'm not a spiritual guy, but I do believe in fate, and everything that has happened to me from even the head injury on has just sort of worked out if I listen to myself and I listen to my soul, my whatever that drive is. If you ignore it, sure, you're going to find yourself in some issues, but I listen to it every single time and it's never steered me wrong. Not once.
That's awesome. I did like the I was like, I'm going to get out. I'm going to wake up at 8 every day. I'm going to freaking go out to the bar. I'm going to tell every girl I meet that I was a Marine veteran and they're all going to want to have sex with me, all that stuff like that. And yeah, none of that shit ever happened.
Yeah.
Kind of the opposite, right?
it's yeah. And that's the funny thing. I had a guy named named Mike Liario. He was I want to say he was a Ranger Regiment commander. Awesome dude. And he said that to me during an interview. He said, because I used to always ask, what advice do you have to people on the way my show used to be? And he was like, just know that your career is going to end, whether it's, and kind of like I said a few minutes ago, whether it's, your 3rd day of basic or your 36th year, it's going to end, and just be ready for it. And, and have a plan. Otherwise, especially if you're like, 25, 26 and it's not your choice, and you can go down some dark areas. Because I mean, gosh, that's almost 20 years since I've been that age. And where would I be if I chose the latter? I would absolutely, I don't know. I shudder to think, because I would hate to be that person. Instead, I muckled down and I got shit done. And it was a struggle, because again, I was misdiagnosed with PTSD. I'm on all the medicines. I was sleeping all the time. I just felt like, I mean, you've heard this story. I'm basically singing the same tune. I felt like if you could compare me to the day I went into the Air Force, all piss and vinegar, to let's say 30 when I got out, I was maybe 10% of that person, if that, maybe 5%, all the way up to like 35.
Wow.
It just felt like shit. I was like, I guess this is life for me now. Do you know who changed? Do you know? This is kind of interesting. What changed my life and made me actually start doing this sort of thing and advocating for veterans is I'm driving home from grad school, because I went to school like 2 hours away and my wife stayed in Raleigh. And as I'm driving home, I'm listening to Joe Rogan talk to a gentleman named Andrew Marr and a guy named Dr. Mark Gordon. And I'm
Yeah.
listening to it and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's story sounds really, really familiar.
Yeah.
And I listened to it, and then I went home and I re-listened to it, and I listened to it again. I've probably listened to that episode I don't know how many times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I started putting those changes that I heard from him, quit drinking, as I'm having a non-carb beer right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I quit doing all the stuff that was not healthy for me. Quit wheat, basically went paleo / keto, meditation, started putting all these like, I want to say like anti-inflammatory, literally, and for the soul, like just trying to,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to probably 50%. I was up about 50% to the guy I was when I went in. And think about it. I mean, it's like a 300% increase in how I felt. And I
Yeah.
was like, man, I am onto something here. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to reach out to Andrew and say, hey, help. So I did. And he got me enrolled with Dr. Gordon. And man, that protocol got me to 98%. And I'll give the 2% just because I'm in my 40s now. They can have that 2%. Air Force,
Yeah.
and they can take that. I'm 98% to where I was back then. And it's incredible. Off every single medicine. I don't take any medicines except for the supplements that Dr. Gordon has me on. And yeah.
Well, it's crazy, man, because like, I remember being like 19 years old and being able to stay up like 3 days in a row
Oh
and
yeah.
friggin', being able to train and being able to do all that stuff on top of drinking. And then, when I started hitting my probably my late 20s, early 30s, I started slowing down a whole lot, like just tired all the time, moody, friggin' getting depressed, like just dealing with it. And I think, what happens with a lot of guys is they get so used to that is their baseline, and
Sure.
they don't
Yeah.
know anything else anymore. And I think that when you go through something like what you went through, and you get the veil lifted off from over your eyes, um, it's shocking how much better you feel when you start treating your body better, and you start taking care of yourself,
Sure.
how much more energy you have for things like your wife and your kids, and for life in general, and I think one of the problems with a lot of guys is like, when we're young, we're not really present a lot of the time, particularly us enlisted swine. When we're in, we a lot of us were like just eager to get the hell out, but we
Sure.
forget to be present and actually enjoy it and remember that we're there with a lot of our friends and things like that. And that translates over to like yourself in the civilian world. Like, you're still sitting there and you're waiting for something. You don't know quite what you're waiting for. And you're not present, but when you have that energy, you can be present, you can enjoy life, you can take control of life and actually plan things out, and go for things that you still want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, and a lot of people, well, there's a couple things there that is interesting. And I've really picked this up since, I started practicing medicine a while ago. Now it's almost a decade, but, so you get someone that feels like shit, right? One thing I can't remember who I heard this from, but, he was speaking of women, but I think men can fall easily into this as well. Picture a child, small child, right? And in my case, let's picture my daughter. The shit that people tell themselves every day. You're a piece of shit. You can't do this. You're crap. You're garbage. You're too fat. You're too slow. You're too ugly. You're too whatever it is. And I would say 98% of people that are listening right now and around the world have spoken to themselves like this. Would you ever speak to your daughter or son or nephew or whatever in that tone? No, you wouldn't. Why? Because it would be devastating to that child. Then why the hell do you do it to yourself, right? Why do you do that to yourself? So you start your day off, you look in the mirror, and I picture just one of my patients, right now, obese, female, 52 years old, angry at herself, angry at the world. And what makes her feel better? She goes downstairs and eats a donut. Boom, endorphin rush. I feel good for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. As she gets in the car, she starts dipping again. Oh, I hate myself. I hate myself. Pulls into a window, like food comes magically through my window and gets a giant milkshake coffee drink. Boom, she feels good again. Oh, this is great. Endorphin rush. Gets to work, feels like crap. And it's a repeating cycle. And it's basically an overdose of drugs that's shooting endorphin into their body. And to convince people right? That you might have to go through 2 years, 3 years, whatever the amount of pain is, you're going to have to remove that drug, and you're going to have to go through withdrawal, and you're going to have to face the shit that you are self-medicating against. But on the other end, I guarantee you, you're going to feel like a better person. You're going to wake up feeling refreshed. You're going to be able to walk upstairs without being out of breath. Your knees won't hurt. That's such a hard thing to get into people, to tell them, because guess what? When you take away that donut or that coffee drink or whatever, they're still going to wake up in the morning, look at themselves in the mirror and call themselves a piece of shit. And now they don't have their drug to recover from it. And and veterans easily fall into that category. I see so many veterans that are drinking too much, eating too much, just doing everything they can to tamp down that inner voice, and it's tragic. And then the answer is, or the question is, how do you change that? I couldn't tell you. I've been doing this for a decade. I've failed a million times. I couldn't tell you.
No, that's you're dead on with that. You're dead on with that. And I mean, it's crazy. And I think you know, a lot of ways physical activity has been my thing. You know, that
Sure.
that kind of took that over. But you can get too far into that too. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely. Yeah.
it'll kill you if you do too much of it. But
Mhm.
tell me about the 21 Gun podcast. When did you start doing that? And you know, how'd you get to where you are now? You guys have been really successful. And it is a great show. How'd that start?
So probably, gosh, let me look, maybe 4 years ago. I had done other podcasts. I just like you, I stuck my toes into comedy back before I joined the Air Force. I just always like to create. I'm a creative person. Medicine doesn't really give you a chance to create. So I was like, let's just try podcasting. This is before it was really that big. And I had fun. I look back at the time, I'm like, what am I doing? I might have made enough money to keep the podcast going, but it was a lot of work for what I thought was little outcome. But what I ended up doing was putting myself through basically a master's course in how to talk with people, how to ask questions, how to read body language, and how to interview. And so I did a couple shows, and then I kind of put that to rest. And a friend of mine was going to Burbiz. It's a great organization, Bourbiz. Check them out. They have kind of veteran networking things around. And so part of me was like, let's just go to Burbiz. Let's just see what this is all about. There was, again, like I said at the beginning, my soul was saying, go here. And I listened, and I didn't want to go because, at the time I was into my recovery from, the PTSD misdiagnosis, I call it, and getting off my medicines, but I still had some issues. Right. And I mean, that's a whole can of worms I'm still working on, but I didn't like going into crowds. I didn't like, rubbing elbows with people. It just was totally not what I wanted to do, but I sucked it up and I did it anyways. And I went up there and I met Donnie O'Malley, who is from Vet TV.
Yep.
And I had a good conversation with him. A man named Dan Mallard, who is with the Irreverent Warriors. They're kind of a married group, Vet TV and Irreverent Warriors. And they told me about their mission, what they do. And I looked, and they didn't have a podcast. And so I came home and I started writing down ideas and trying to figure out what kind of show would work for them. Did a couple pilot episodes and pitched it to him. I said, hey, this is 21 Gun. Basically, we're highlighting the lives of veterans who, just everyday veterans who chose life instead of a bullet or drinking themselves to death or whatever. And they said, great, go with it. And so they gave me the job. I ended up being the podcast for the Irreverent Warriors side of things. We did that for 3 years. COVID hit. COVID got a little wonky. Because what happened, so the Irreverent Warriors, their main thing is that they bring veterans out of isolation, right? If you're home by yourself and you're not amongst the people that you know and speak your language, then that's where bad things happen, isolation. And so suddenly the whole world was isolated. And it's like, what do we do with these veterans? So I had a guy that was helping me out in the studio, Jeremy Walton. I said, let's start doing live shows and having them chime in and basically make it their show. And we were just having random dudes hop on. People would, it was like a party each week. It was great. And it worked out fantastic. But then politically things start getting a little wonky out there, which we kind of alluded to at the very beginning of the show. And so we started speaking freely along that avenue. And Irreverent Warriors is a great organization, but they're trying to raise money and they're a big organization, and we didn't want to screw anything up with them. I didn't want to get them canceled, for saying something, because I wasn't going to censor anything anybody's going to say. And so we just parted ways. I said, you know what? It's probably best that we do our own thing. We brought on an EOD guy named Frank Easterling.
Right.
We pitched the show to my childhood hero, Anthony Cumia. They're just a random situation thing. Again, listen to what your soul is telling you. And somehow I was like, I'm going to pitch a show to these guys on Compound Media, which this isn't on purpose. I was just happened to be wearing the shirt. And I pitched my show to Anthony Cumia of Opie and Anthony, and he loved it. And they brought us on board. And so I had to, like, within 2 weeks, go from just being a goofy, let's have fun, to actually be a professional podcast and, LLC, and become a business and all that. But it's been great. We've had a lot of fun, met some really cool people, learned a lot, going from amateur to pro about production and all that. And it's been fun. It's a great show. We have it's behind a paywall, which is it's good and bad. It's bad because I can't just be like, hey, go check out our show, but it's good because it gives us somewhat of a level of protection to speak freely, because we don't say anything. I know for a fact everything I say is not negative. It's not hateful. It's not racist. It's not homophobic. It's not trans. Whatever phobic you can put on there. It's absolutely not. But in today's day and age, you could say anything and they can just be like, I don't like you, so we're going to turn that into something awful. And that always concerns me. This modern age of speaking and being on social media and making content, man, it's always in the back of your mind that someone's going to misconstrue something you say. So it just gives us a little bit of breathing room over there. And it's kind of like, we can be free and not really worry too much about it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Being able to do that is great.
Oh, it's awesome.
You're also in the coffee business now, right?
Yeah. Dude, I'm like, I don't know. Somehow I have a time machine. And what I do is I dilate time. So you might have like what we call a 24-hour day. I manage to get like 36 hours out of every single day. I still don't know how I do it. But yeah, we 2022 Sierra Coffee. The coffee company was made before my podcast, so the 21 and 22 screws me up all the time. But yeah, we roast coffee. We use specialty grade beans, top beans you can have on the face of the earth. They're better than a common veteran-owned coffee company. I won't name them, but they use premium grade, a step below ours. The cool thing about 22 Sierra is we donate. I mean, that's the thing. I'm still connected to Irreverent Warriors through them. We donate money to them. $3 out of every bag we sell, we send to either Grunt Style. We're partnered with Grunt Style. We're partnered with Burn Pits 360. We're partnered with I always say this one wrong. Round Canopy Parachuting Team. And then of course, Irreverent Warriors. So it's like those extra hours you have in the day, we're just giving back again. And, my wife's involved, my kids are involved, and it just feels great. We're not there to make, basically our profits go into, giving back to these nonprofits. So, I love it. I love it. Oh, and look at this. I just happen to have, this is our police one. Hold the line.
That's awesome.
Smells delicious. Yeah. We got,
nice.
There's our Reverent Warriors. We'll actually, when we partner with people, we'll make a bag for them. So we have like our Silkies bag. We have just random stuff too, but yeah, lots of fun with that.
That's really cool, man. One more question about the podcast here. So now that you're working with like Compound Media, do they have like producers and things like that work with you, or is it like you're pretty much free reign on your own and all that kind of stuff? Or?
Well, it's been great because content wise, we're left free to do what we want to do. Production wise, yeah, I work with a producer that's actually been in the business for like 30 years. I listened to Opie and Anthony when I was like 19 years old. I remember hearing this dude on the radio. His name's Eric Nagel. And he like, so I'll submit my stuff and he'll be like, hey, try to do this and try to do that. And he's just made it better, because when you're creating, and that's what podcasting pretty much is, people with no experience going in and just trying something, and it's trial and error.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I've failed, and every failure leads to a little bit more success. To have the pros say, hey, I'm gonna give you a little cheat code here. Don't do this, do this. It's been awesome. It's been really cool. That's
awesome.
It's a total trip because, like I said, these are people. Anthony and Eric are people that I heard on the radio since I was working construction in college, banging nails. listening to on WAAF. And now it's like, I'm sure I have 5 texts from him now about what's going on today. And it's just surreal. A lot of fun. And then here's the other thing, and this might come with that. And you're probably dealing with that. You know, when you're a content creator, when you're a comic, when you're whatever you do, everything you do is shit. People will tell you, hey man, your stuff's awesome. You're like, it sucks. I can't. You never feel happy with what you put out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do these guys know I suck? My show sucks, but somehow they keep stringing me along. All right, if that's what they want. Yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, no, I definitely go through that on a regular basis with the show, with my comedy, with everything I do. It's my job.
Part of this world, man. It's part of this world. You'll never be. And if you are happy with it, it probably actually sucks.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Well, cool, man. Really glad to have you on. Anything else you want to get out there to the audience while you're here?
Why don't you guys, if you guys ever want to check out 22 Sierra Coffee, head over to 22sierracoffee.com and use, I'll give you guys this, it's for my podcast, but if you use 21 Gun, just use the number 21 Gun, you save 10% off all our products. And like I say, it's what I like about it. And what I always say, because we plug the coffee on our show, is like every sip you're taking, like we all drink coffee, and every sip you're taking, you're like, I'm giving back, right? You literally are giving back. And we just have a lot of fun with that. So yeah, head over there and get a discount, try it out. If you like it, let me know. I'm easy to find. Just go 21 Gun Podcast and all my shit pops up. I'm sure my email and all that stuff. Awesome. But yeah, that's really it. And keep what's that saying? Keep your nose to the grindstone. Never understood that.
Keep your nose to the grindstone. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Listen to your soul. Listen to your soul, warrior soul. A gogi.
A goji. I don't even know how to pronounce that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man, it's like the older I get, there was a time where I'd be like, warrior soul, like, are you meditating, you nerd? Now I'm like, dude, every night I'm trying to reach that level of psychedelic state and pierce the veil of reality and find out what's going on in this world, and realizing everything that we're experiencing is just based on these 5 senses. But I don't know, we could go down a whole other rabbit hole with that.
Yeah, no, it's funny because when I first started the show, right before I started, I was trying to figure out a name for the show, and I'm like, warrior, like warrior dragon. No, that's not going to work. Warrior this, warrior soul. Yeah. And
that's a good one. I like it.
Yeah, when I first started it, everybody thought it was the heavy metal band, or not that, it was like the 80s hair band, Warrior Soul.
I never even heard of them. Now I got to go check them out.
Yeah, they're like an 80s hair band, but
okay. Yeah, that's funny the way that
we racked out together in a tent down in Texas a few weeks ago, doing some awesome stuff down there at the 4x4x48 for Warrior Angels Foundation. That was just an awesome weekend. And it's been great getting to know you, and great hearing your story. And I really love everything you're doing out there, man. And it's great when people can get out there and be an example for this community, and, not eat a bullet, or not, do all the friggin' shit that people think veterans do, but be who we really are, which is a group of leaders who are out there creating things and trying to make this country better. And I applaud you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. And I applaud you too, sir, for doing all the stuff that you're doing. I mean, getting stories out, you never know. That I heard Andrew Marr's story so many years ago, and that the hope is that someone else will hear, like when you came on our show, one person reaches and you're like, oh shit, all this is worth it. Every bit of it's worth it.
100%, man. 100%. So everybody out there, definitely get out there and check out the 21 Gun Podcast. It's behind a paywall. How much does it cost? How do you get there and stuff like that?
I got to look, because I'm still new with that. I should know their subscription service and all that. They have discount codes that are on my Twitter page. If you do at 21 Gun Podcast, again, you don't have to spell it out. It's just 21 Gun Podcast. But I want to say it's like $79 a year or something like that, okay. which what I tell people is like, you just don't buy that extra large latte from Starbucks once a week or once a day, and boom, it's paid for. And there's a lot of good guys over there, a lot of comics, a lot of New York City comics. Anthony's a legend. If you guys don't know who Anthony is from Opie and Anthony, he's a legend. His show is great, and lots of great people, and we have fun.
And then check out 22 Sierra Coffee. What's the web handle for that again?
22crcoffee.com.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm going to get me some of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I love good coffee. Um, and to everybody out there, man, I hope you got a lot out of this episode. I hope that you guys are going to keep pushing forward, keep pushing through. And, we'll be back at you next week with another awesome episode. This is Chris and Kevin, and we are out.